You didn't imagine it. That silence, that distance, that feeling like you were almost loved but never fully chosen, that wasn't bad timing. That was two hearts trained to run the moment love got real. And here's the truth no one tells you: when two avoidants fall for each other, it doesn't explode. It slowly, quietly disappears. No fights. No closure. Just two people pretending they don't care while secretly breaking inside. So the real question is, who breaks first and who breaks the cycle? This isn't just a relationship. It's a silent war between fear and desire. Two people craving connection but wired to escape it. They don't chase. They don't beg. They don't even explain. They withdraw. They detach. They convince themselves they're better off alone. But deep down, they remember everything, every glance, every almost moment, every what if. And that's where the cycle begins. So if you're watching this, feeling like someone just described your story, understand this: you weren't crazy for feeling something real. You weren't wrong for wanting more. You were just caught in a connection where both people were afraid to stay. But you don't have to keep repeating it, because the moment you choose clarity over confusion, honesty over silence, presence over distance, that's the moment the cycle ends. And maybe, just maybe, that's the moment you finally experience a love that doesn't disappear when it starts to matter most. At the beginning, it doesn't feel complicated. It feels calm, effortless, almost refreshing. There's no chasing, no emotional chaos, no overwhelming intensity that makes you question everything. It's two people moving at a distance that feels comfortable, like neither is trying to invade the other's space. And that's exactly why it works at first. There's an unspoken agreement: I won't overwhelm you and you won't overwhelm me. No one is asking for too much. No one is demanding constant reassurance. It feels mature. It feels controlled. It feels like something you can finally handle without losing yourself. But beneath that calm surface, something deeper is happening. Both people are observing, calculating, staying slightly guarded. Not because they don't like each other, but because liking someone has never felt safe. There's a quiet tension that neither of them names. A subtle hesitation before opening up too much. A carefulness in how much they reveal. And then something shifts. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's just a moment, maybe a longer conversation, a deeper connection, a night where vulnerability slips through the cracks. Suddenly, it's not just casual anymore. It's not just easy. It starts to matter. And that's where the fear begins. Because for someone who avoids emotional closeness, the moment something becomes meaningful, it also becomes dangerous. Not physically, not logically, but internally. Their system reads connection as risk. Intimacy feels like exposure. The closer they get, the more they feel like they're losing control over themselves. So even while their heart is pulling them closer, something else is pushing them away. They start noticing small things. How much they think about the other person, how their mood shifts depending on a message, how their attention is no longer fully their own. And instead of interpreting that as love growing, it feels like dependence forming, and dependence to an avoidant mind feels like weakness. So they pull back just a little at first. Maybe they take longer to respond. Maybe they become slightly less expressive. Nothing obvious. Nothing that can be easily called out. Just enough distance to regain a sense of control. But here's the twist. The other person feels it too. Not just the connection, but the fear. Because they're wired the same way. So instead of leaning in when they sense distance, they match it. They don't question it. They don't confront it. They adjust to it. Now both people are stepping back at the same time while still feeling everything. And that's where it becomes confusing. Because the attraction never actually disappears. It doesn't fade the way people think it does. It stays strong, intense, unresolved. But it gets buried under layers of self-protection. They still think about each other. They still replay moments. They still feel that pull. But instead of acting on it, they suppress it. They convince themselves it's not that deep, that it's better this way, that getting closer would only complicate things. But deep down, they know the truth. This wasn't just something casual. It just became something they didn't know how to handle. And instead of risking the unknown, they retreat into the familiar distance, independence, emotional control. So what looked like a perfect, easy connection slowly turns into something else. Something quiet, something unfinished. Not because the attraction wasn't real, but because it was too real for both of them to stay. Silence doesn't start as absence. It starts as hesitation. At first, conversations flow naturally. There's curiosity, engagement, a sense that both people are present. Messages are thoughtful, replies come with intention, and there's an ease in communication that feels rare. It's not forced. It's not overwhelming. It's just enough to keep things alive without feeling suffocating. But as emotions deepen, something subtle begins to change. The pauses get longer. Not dramatically at first, just a slight delay. A message that would have been answered in minutes now takes hours. A conversation that once carried energy now feels slightly restrained. It's not obvious enough to question, but it's noticeable enough to feel. And the most dangerous part? No one talks about it. Because in an avoided dynamic, silence feels safer than honesty. Saying "I feel you" pulling away requires vulnerability. It opens the door to rejection, to confrontation, to emotional exposure. And both people are wired to avoid exactly that. So, instead of addressing the shift, they internalize it. They notice the distance, but they don't name it. They feel the change, but they don't question it. They adapt. One person thinks, maybe I'm overthinking. The other thinks, maybe I should give space. And just like that, silence starts growing not as a choice, but as a default. Messages become shorter, less expressive, more neutral. Conversations lose depth, not because there's nothing to say, but because saying something meaningful feels risky. There's a constant calculation happening beneath the surface. Am I saying too much? Am I showing too much interest? Will this make me look like I care more? So they hold back. They edit themselves. They reduce their presence. They respond just enough to keep the connection alive, but not enough to deepen it. And slowly, communication transforms into something transactional. No longer a space for connection, but a space for control. And here's where it becomes painful. Both people feel the silence differently. To the outside world, it might look like disinterest, like fading attraction, like two people naturally drifting apart. But internally, it feels like confusion, like tension, like something unresolved. They check their phone more than they admit. They reread old messages. They notice every small change in tone, in timing, in effort. But instead of expressing what they feel, they retreat further. Because in their mind, reaching out emotionally feels like losing. So silence becomes the language. Not because they have nothing to say, but because saying it feels too dangerous. And over time, that silence creates a gap filled with assumptions, misinterpretations, and unspoken emotions. One person might think they've lost interest. The other might think they need space. Neither realizes they're both feeling the same thing, uncertainty mixed with fear. And instead of closing that gap, they protect themselves from it. They stop initiating. They wait. They observe. And the connection that once felt effortless now feels distant, fragile, almost out of reach. Not because it's gone, but because it's buried under everything they refuse to say. It doesn't happen intentionally. No one sits there and decides, I'm going to pull away now. It's automatic, instinctive, like a reflex that activates the moment something feels too close, too real, too emotionally exposing. One person starts to withdraw just slightly. Maybe they take longer to reply, maybe their tone shifts, maybe they become a little less present. It's subtle, almost invisible to anyone who isn't emotionally invested. But the other person notices, not consciously at first. It's more of a feeling than a thought. Something feels off. The rhythm has changed. The energy isn't the same. And instead of leaning in to understand it, they mirror it. They match the distance. Not out of strategy, not out of pride, but out of protection. Because when you're wired to avoid vulnerability, your first instinct when you feel someone pulling away isn't to chase them, it's to step back before they can fully leave. So now both people are doing the same thing. One withdraws. The other mirrors it. Then the first notices the distance and pulls back even more. And the second responds the same way. It becomes a loop. A silent, unspoken dance where both are reacting to each other without ever addressing what's actually happening. And the most dangerous part of this dynamic is how logical it feels in the moment. Each person believes they're simply respecting space. They convince themselves they're not overstepping, not being too much, not risking rejection. But what they're actually doing is slowly disconnecting in perfect synchronization. There's no conflict, no arguments, no dramatic endings, just distance, growing layer by layer. And because both people are mirroring each other, it reinforces the illusion that this is natural, that this is just how things are supposed to fade. But beneath that surface, something else is happening. Both are still aware of the connection. Both still feel the pull. Both still think about what it could be. But neither acts, because acting would mean breaking the pattern. It would mean stepping into vulnerability. It would mean risking the possibility that the other person might not respond the way they hope. So they wait. They observe. They hold back. And the connection becomes trapped in this space between what is felt and what is expressed. It's not that the feelings disappear. It's that they're never given the chance to grow. They stay stuck at a certain level, intense enough to matter, but not expressed enough to evolve. And over time, that creates a quiet frustration, a sense that something is unfinished, that something could have been different if only one person had done something differently. But both are thinking the same thing. And that's why nothing changes, because mirroring distance feels safer than risking closeness, even if it means losing something that actually mattered. Rejection doesn't always come in words. Sometimes it comes in absence, in inconsistency, in the subtle shift from presence to distance that no one ever explains. And in an avoidant dynamic, that kind of rejection cuts deeper than anything spoken, because it leaves room for interpretation. No one says, "I don't want you." No one clearly walks away. Instead, the connection slowly changes shape. The energy drops. The effort becomes unpredictable. One day feels normal, the next feels distant. There's no clear pattern, no clear reason, just a lingering sense that something isn't the same anymore. And that uncertainty is where the mind starts filling in the gaps. Did I do something wrong? Did I say too much? Was I too available? Too interested? Too real? But instead of asking these questions out loud, they stay internal. Because asking would require vulnerability. And vulnerability in this dynamic feels like exposure, without guarantee. So both people silently process what feels like rejection without ever confirming if it actually is. They interpret distance as disinterest. They interpret inconsistency as lack of care, even if the reality is more complex. Even if the other person is just as confused, just as guarded, just as afraid. But perception becomes reality. And once someone feels rejected, even subtly, they start protecting themselves. They pull back emotionally. They stop expressing as much. They become more controlled, more reserved. Not because they've stopped caring, but because they don't want to feel that uncertainty again. And here's where it becomes even more complicated. Both people are experiencing this at the same time. Both feel the shift. Both interpret it as rejection. Both respond by becoming more distant. So now, what started as a subtle change turns into a reinforced pattern. Distance creates the feeling of rejection. That feeling creates more distance. And the connection slowly collapses under the weight of misinterpretation. No one realizes that the other person never actually rejected them. They were just protecting themselves from the exact same fear. But because no one communicates it, it feels real. It feels final. And both walk away with the same question, what if I mattered more than they showed? Without realizing, they were both asking that about each other. There's a moment in every avoidant connection where one person feels it first. Not just attraction, not just interest, but something deeper. Something that goes beyond control. It's not dramatic. It's quiet. It's the realization that this person is no longer just an option, they matter. And that realization changes everything. Because for someone who's used to emotional independence, feeling deeply about someone creates an internal conflict. Part of them wants to move closer, to express, to connect, to explore what this could become. But another part, stronger, louder, tells them to hold back, because caring introduces risk. And risk feels like losing control, so they hesitate. They feel the urge to reach out, but they stop themselves. They think about saying something real, but they edit it. They consider showing vulnerability, but they suppress it. Because in their mind, the one who feels more loses power, loses control, loses the upper hand in a dynamic that has never been clearly defined. So instead of following what they feel, they follow what feels safe. They create distance, not because they don't care, but because they care too much. And the other person senses it. They feel the shift, the hesitation, the emotional withdrawal. But instead of recognizing it as fear, they interpret it as disinterest. So they pull back too. And now the person who felt first feels like they misread everything. Like they imagined the connection. Like they were the only one who felt something real.
So they shut down.
They convinced themselves it wasn't that important.
That it's better this way.
That staying detached is smarter than risking something uncertain. But deep down, there's a quiet awareness.
They know they didn't lose because they felt. They lost because they didn't act on it.
Because they let fear override truth. And that's the paradox. The one who feels first isn't weak. They're the one closest to breaking the pattern. The one closest to choosing something different. But only if they're willing to move through the discomfort instead of retreating from it. Change doesn't happen when both people suddenly become aware. It doesn't happen through mutual realization or perfectly timed emotional breakthroughs. It happens when one person decides they're done repeating the same pattern. Because cycles don't require two people to continue, but they do require one person to stop. And that decision is rarely easy. It means going against instinct, against everything that feels safe and familiar. It means choosing to express instead of suppress, to move closer instead of pulling away, to be honest instead of controlled. And for someone who's spent their life avoiding vulnerability, that feels unnatural. It feels risky, but it's also the only way out. Because as long as both people are operating from the same pattern of fear, distance, emotional control, nothing changes. The dynamic stays the same. The outcome stays the same. Different person, same story. So the cycle continues until someone breaks it. And breaking it doesn't mean forcing the other person to change. It doesn't mean chasing, convincing, or proving anything. It means showing up differently. It means saying what you actually feel, even if it's uncomfortable. It means choosing clarity, even if it risks rejection. It means being present, even if the other person isn't ready to meet you there. Because real power isn't in control. It's in alignment. And no longer betraying your own emotions just to maintain a dynamic that's going nowhere. And when one person does that, something shifts. Not always in the outcome, but in the pattern itself. Because even if the other person doesn't respond the way you hope, the cycle still ends. You stop repeating the same story. You stop attracting the same dynamic. You stop abandoning yourself to avoid losing someone else. And that's where real change begins. Not in waiting for both people to be ready, but in one person deciding they already are.